All right. We're live on YouTube with Cheri Yazzie. Am I saying her name right? I should have asked first.
It's Yazzie, Cheri Yazzie.
Yazzie. Cheri Yazzie. She has a business called Fulfilled as Fuck. She is a multiple six-figure business builder, $1 million Amazon seller, speaker, course creator, healer, travel junkie, and mom and wife. She is level as fuck, and she knows you are too. Her superpowers are delight, gratitude, maximizing a system, and telling the fucking truth. What we're here to do today is find a bit about what made her decide to go from $1 million Amazon business, right, to what she's doing now. Because that has to have something to do with passion. I'm guessing. I'm assuming that.
Yeah, absolutely it did.
Yeah. So tell me a little about that story. What took you from one to the other?
Yeah, well, we found Amazon through sheer desperation. My husband and I have been entrepreneurs since we were 19, actually. We started a business together taking photos and we would travel all over the country. It was really fun. And then we had our son, and I didn't travel anymore because I was home with our son. And then my husband was gone all the time. And we're like, this isn't why we got into being entrepreneurs. We wanted to do this whole thing together. And so then we had this brilliant idea, online business. We're going to be able to get online and find a business and make money. We bought into all the hype, all the things. We went full in. MLM was our first one. We are just like, yeah, we're all in. We're on the calls. We're doing the things. And we just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. And it was one of those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, we might have to get one of those JOB things. And we found Amazon. And it was finally we could sell something. Finally, people wanted to buy what we were selling. Like there was thousands and thousands of people shopping on Amazon every single day looking for items, and we could go find them, buy them low, sell them high. And it's like the clouds parted and there was an orchestra, right? Because we finally could sell, like, it's gonna happen. We're gonna be able to live and eat and pay our rent and
Yes.
and so Amazon was born out of absolute desperation. We finally found a business that actually worked. And then once we did that, it was like, well, we should help other people. I'm sure there are lots of people out in this online space who have the same experience where they want this online business. They want this idea that other people are actually living. And we could help them do that. So we started teaching. And it was a few years into teaching, I was like, if the rest of my life is talking about the quiet tape guns and how to send a box into Amazon, like I'm wasting my actual natural fucking talent in the world because this isn't what I'm like lit up and excited to talk about.
Right.
I I'm one of those people that loves new challenges, right? So as I'm learning the challenge, like I love to share all of that because that like lights me up, the whole figuring it out and then showing people how to do it. I dig that. But once I'd figured it all out, like all out, but like it was very successful and it was very successful for our students. I was kind of like, there's this missing, right? There's this. And then what I was noticing too was our students, some of them would come in and crush it, and some of them would just flounder. And again, it was mindset, which I was learning really hardcore in my own business and my own life, right? That mindset was the biggest chunk of everything. And you can be successful, you can be making money, you can be hitting your goals, which we were. And I thought all that would fix my problems. I thought all of that would just handle everything because we were making all this money and we'd been so desperate and so broke for so long that it was like, that's what will handle everything. And then when you hit it and you're like, wait, I'm still wildly unhappy. We're still struggling here. And then when you see your students do the same thing, even the ones who were successful weren't happy, right? And I was like, huh, this is really the journey. So I started going on my own happiness journey. It was actually our son was born, and he's just this big, bright, beautiful light. And I was like,
Oh,
okay, I've got to protect this light, like for sure. Like get him to adulthood with as much of this light intact as possible. It's my job. And once I made that declaration, I was like, who's the biggest threat to that light? I was like, oh my gosh, it's me.
Yeah.
If I don't fix these stories, if I don't fix these mindsets, if I don't shift, if I am so unhappy like I am, I'm going to show him that's how you live life. And I was like, and I wonder if maybe underneath all of this, maybe I'm as happy and joyful as he naturally is. Like, what if that's who I actually am? And literally, it was a 5 year journey, hard, lots of lessons, mostly doing it on my own, figuring things out. And, it's like, right, we're in a pandemic. I actually had COVID a while ago, and I'm happier than even with all of these things, all the stressors, I'm happier now than I used to be at my absolute happiness. Like when we would
Oh.
make the money and hit the goals and everything, I'm happier now with the stress. I'm happier now. And so it's changed, right? I believe everybody has a happiness set point, and my set point is just wildly different, right?
Mm.
And I was like, this is the stuff. This is what I meant to talk about, because I approach it in a different way than I've ever found anywhere. I've never found anybody who does it exactly like I do. And I'm like, this is the stuff, because as entrepreneurs, as moms, as parents, in a relationship, anything that you're doing, the more you, be happy, be excited, and love the fuck out of yourself, the better everything is going to go. So it was like, this is my mission. It was a calling, right? It was one of those like,
Yes.
you have to stand up, you there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when everything clicks into place, because you do all the other stuff for that outcome, right? Like, well, if we make enough money that we're not freaking out, then I'll be happy. If I help other people make money, then I'll be happy. Right? Then,
Yeah.
and then you have to find out it works a little bit differently, right?
Yeah, yeah, because you're that donkey chasing the carrot. This will be the one. This will be the one. This will be the one. And at some point, you got to go. No, I'm going to stop chasing the carrot. Like, I'm going to create my own damn carrot over here that no one can take from me because it's mine, right?
I love that. My own damn carrot. Yeah, like yes, I teach that as well. It's like because yeah, we have these ideas that we think are going to make us feel the way we want to feel, but really there's things you already know work for you, and it's really about doing more of that and making that a bigger scale, and like how much happier can you be about that, you know? And yeah, I'm sure that it's changing lives because a lot of times people are waiting on something else to happen in order to be happy. And it really, you might as well go ahead and get happy first, guys, like, because the rest of the stuff is like, fleeting at most, or at best, I should say. Yeah. So, what about the people? I'm curious about I'm always curious about who your people are, right? Right? Like, um, the people that you get to work with that are ready to be fulfilled, right? To be ready to have a different version of life.
Yeah. So a lot of the people who work with me, well, so I try to keep it really simple. And I'm always pulling myself back because I start saying these like out there things like, oh, it's people looking for, you know, their purpose and their dharma. And a lot of people are like, what? I don't know,
What
So I'm
does
like,
that
okay,
mean?
I like to work, yeah, with people who are unhappy, who want to be happy. Like it's
Yeah,
simple,
yeah, 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 yeah.
because right, there's so much available once you get into this work, and so many things that it unlocks for you, but just simply, very much so, the people who want to be happy, who know that there's something else available in their relationship, something else available in their life, and they're ready for it, because those are the best people to work with anyways, right? No
Yeah.
convincing. It's like, if you're ready, I can show you the way. I have no like qualms about that. And a lot of people who come into my sphere too are women who are moms, who are in relationships. But I have all walks. But overall, I'd say that's the biggest, because I think sometimes as a mother, it's so easy to kind of lose yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in losing yourself, right, you're basically unhooking what, like, your own ability to make yourself happy, right? You're putting everybody before yourself. And so you get so run
Mm-hmm.
down, and then you have nothing to pour from. So like, it's not only beneficial for everybody for you to do this, but it's needed. Like, the more that you take care of you, and everybody talks about it, self-care, self-care. But I think of
Mm-hmm.
it in a different way, right? Like, what if we all stopped and we're like, what do we want? How do we want it to go? How do I want to feel? and then create that in our worlds on purpose. What if
Yeah.
that's what we were showing our kids? What if that's what we were showing other people who are around us? Like, if everybody started to live from this place of truth and truly getting clear on what they want and creating it, just something else would be available. So, sorry, I know you asked me a question and then I took like a big turn, but
No, it's perfect. I think, because I think one of the things that we get away from, I think, in having a business, one of the things to get away from is is what we're really vying for. Because I think we know that we are doing what we do because we know it'd make anybody's life better, right? And in business, you got to be more specific, right? So we get away from that a little bit. But I think it's really important to just go back to basics, like what is powerful about working with people, and especially when we're working with people about like changing their lives, because I think it's a different thing completely. Obviously, it's different from selling gadgets on Amazon, right? When you're working with people and when you're sharing your heart with somebody, it's a different level of vulnerability and intimacy and uh, stake. There's a lot of more, stake in the game, right? When you're ready to change lives in the world, right? Um, is there like any particular moment, like when you're working with clients, like aha moments? Is there any particular moment that's like super exciting for you? Or I guess all aha moments are exciting, but I'm just saying, like, can you think of anything specific?
yeah. So, one of my favorites was a woman. She was talking about, um, after working with me, her husband was in a really like having a really bad day. And normally, like it would have gone a certain way, right? She would have been trying to like help him and make him happy. And instead, she was like, you know what? I'm just going to go do stuff I want to do. She went, did what she wanted to do, created this beautiful day for herself that was so replenishing. And and was able to interact with her husband and be happy and excited, like for their connection, and let what was going on for him go, right? That's one of my favorite things is when people can start shifting away from you have to be okay for me to be okay, because that was such a big thing for me. Once I got real clear, like my child doesn't have to be okay, my son doesn't have to be okay, my business doesn't have to be okay, none of that has to be okay for me to be okay. I can be okay at any given moment, right? Like, and so seeing other people get that same level of freedom and just the like, it's like this feeling of a deep breath, right? Like a, oh, because you then control like how it's going to go for you regardless of
Right.
what's happening. And of course then that in turn starts shifting the entire story of your household.
Yeah.
So that's probably any of those kind of moments where people just get that freedom. They start to
Yeah.
understand that out there
Yeah.
doesn't have to control over here.
Right. And they get that first experience of the new reality. Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. It's pretty precious. Um, and because you do what you do, I'm pretty sure like this shift might not have felt, I think, the way a lot of my other interviews might have felt, moving into this shift of doing something, or maybe even if you're not thinking of it in the right perspective, it can almost feel like you're selling parts of yourself, right? When you're sharing your heart as a business, right? Um, like for most people, they get this time when they're just super anxious about like people liking them, like, because now you're sharing yourself, right? Are they gonna like your idea? Are they gonna want what you think is cool, like this hard transition again from like putting the emphasis on an outside object to this is my idea, this is how I serve, right? It's a wholly different experience. I think maybe it's still cool to ask the question because what are things that you called on when you knew you were making this change, and what might have you noticed come up for you, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah. So the there was I had like certainty inside of the Amazon business. I knew, you're working with numbers, right? So
Yeah.
it's like we sold this much and then our students sold this much. And so when you're talking to other people about selling them your course or whatever it is, you're like, oh, well, we've helped so and so do this and this and this and this. And so there's this app like level of like shoulders back, certainty, confidence. Of course, what I have will help you, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
when I get over here, I'm like, well, so I was like wildly unhappy and now I'm happy. Do you maybe want that? You know what I mean? Like I was so,
Yeah.
and the other thing too, since I had a very large audience of people looking to make money, a lot of them are like, no, the money will solve the thing. Like they're not to that next step yet. And
Yeah.
maybe they are happy, so the money will. I'm not saying, and I mean, everybody's process is their own, right? But for me, I'm looking for those people who have hit some of those things. They are understanding that it's not the relationship. It's not the perfect relationship, perfect business. It's not the money rolling in. Like that happiness is something else. They're starting to look and like, what could it be, right? So, but
Hmm.
it took me a while to figure that out because at first, it was kind of like, you want to be happy, maybe?
Yeah.
So I would say confidence was the biggest thing for me, really getting confident in what I had to offer and what I did. And the best thing that actually shifted it for me was actually getting it out there, getting it in front of people, and then having people be like, wow, this helped me do this, and this helped me do this, which was the same process that I actually used when we did the Amazon course. Because when we first started, again, even though it's working for you, there's still like a little bit of, is this going to work for somebody else?
Yeah.
And once it does, I put all of my testimonials and stuff all in one folder so that anytime I'm like feeling a little bit like, oh, maybe this isn't as, yeah, I just go read them and I'm like, okay, that's right. I'm badass and this works. It's
That's
fucking
right.
amazing.
I'm awesome.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Forgot
So
for a
that's one of
second
my
how awesome I
tricks.
am. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Yes. Yes. Yeah, because it is sometimes you have to have the again, you have to have the experience to believe it's possible. Like it's one of those things in business as well. Um, so is there anything earlier in your life that kind of that indicated that you would be teaching people how to be happy later?
No. I mean, like literally, you look at my, if you really looked at my life, people would be like, what? Because I was diagnosed with depression when I was a teenager. I was always looking outside myself to be happy. I was, it's like drugs, alcohol, boys or men or whatever you want, the gambit to try to not feel what I was feeling, to try to not be inside my own skin. All the way from like, even as a child, I was very, very serious. I was a child of an alcoholic. And so I felt like I had to be the parent from a very young age. And so I was intensely like serious. No one would have ever thought, you know what, that chick is bubbly and fun as fuck. Like never, right?
Yeah.
Unless I was
Yeah.
drinking, then I was fun. But it was like that was the only time I would let that part of myself out. And so honestly, my business was born from me being like just living in pain every single day, pain, fear, stress, overwhelm, always trying to like do more and more and more so people would love me, so people would want me to be around. And and living like that for so long, like as I got free of it, I'm like, oh, I have to help anybody else who can relate to that because that sucked so badly. Like, and so yeah, I don't think anyone would ever think that. And now people who meet me now have like they're like, you were depressed because I'm loud, I'm bubbly, I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people wouldn't even imagine who I like used to be, especially like through my teenage years and stuff. Um, and the people from my teenage years are like, you're a functioning member of society. Like, you know, like not only functioning,
What are you
I'm
trying to
actually
say?
thriving.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. But you know, like I find also I do some astrology stuff too. And so what I always say is that usually where you have the deepest traumas in your life is where you build the biggest tools, right? It's where you're aware. It's where you're so aware of what could not work, what that goes wrong. And so being able to steer people from those, rocky shoals, however you want to call it, like it really comes from that. It comes from knowing like how wrong it can go. Like it can go pretty wrong. You know, I find that even with myself, like I'm a good voice teacher. I'm an amazing voice teacher because of how wrong it went in the beginning. So. So yeah, so I think that's a wholly a part of it. And as the world's changing, like as everything is shifting, from society to how we live, like governmental structures to literally how we live day to day, it's changing.
Mm-hmm.
That is just naturally going to influence the market, right? Like what's going on in the market and all of that. Um, I have a theory that if you're in the flow of what the times are, it's like what's going on right now, then you're just naturally kind of flow into the flow of what's working in the market as well and what's working for society as well, right? And for me, a lot of that, like how I associate that is how kind of feminine energy, feminine structures are actually being built. Like the world is being restructured on feminine energy, you know? Luckily, it's all encompassing. So, guys, you get to come too. And obviously, energy does not mean gender. But with all that said, how how do you interact with that? Do you have any similar theories? Like that's the first thing I'd want to know. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, I definitely think there's a shift happening overall.
Yeah.
It's what it feels like to me. And I, it kind of mirrors some of my own shift, right? Because well, and most of us, right? I think because
Hmm.
we were raised very much inside of that masculine energy. And then when I got into business, it was all hustle, 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 always be closing kind of stuff, that kind of energy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And and very much that there's a right way, like there's one way and it's the right way, and you need the right tools and the right strategy, and that's the most important thing. And you not only that, you need to find people who are doing something successfully and then model them. Like it was this whole like outline, right? And I bought into it, and then
Hmm.
I was like out there trying to model and be kind of like this other person, but I'm myself, right? I'm fully me. And I was like, I didn't swear in any of my lives and stuff, but like I swear like a sailor at home. So it was a very like, and then when you're doing it, you feel fake. Like, so it was this whole awakening for me where I was like, okay. And it was by doing it, right? I got out there and I did it. And I'm like, this is not feeling right. Like, this isn't, I don't know how to be in here, being professional, right? That was just never for me. And so when I was able to finally like shed that stuff, I was like, oh, it's the same kind of thing. It's this shifting to this other energy of that there
Yeah.
isn't a right way, that it's the energy behind it that matters. And it was important for me because I was watching a lot of different successful entrepreneurs. And what I was finding again and again, it didn't matter necessarily what strategy they were using or what tool they were using, really. It was the energy that you could feel, like the energy transference when you were watching, when you were listening, even or reading. And you're like, it
Hmm.
started to open up my eyes. And then I went on this whole other path, right? Where you started to feel more into the flow and how does this go? And how do I want, it kind of goes right back to my work. How do I want this to be? How would I like to show up? How would feel amazing and fun? And like, what if money or success or anything, like, what if fun is the like indication that that's the right path, like the path I'm supposed to hit versus the
Yes.
supposed to stuff. So yeah.
Yes. Same thing for me. It's like, yeah, what if we just go in with what felt good? Like what if that happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like did it feel good? Let's try that again then. Like, right? Um, and yeah, and I think it's so powerful when we can do the thing that makes us feel good and know that that's what wins, right? And now you want to do more of it, and now success is inevitable, right? So yes, and the other thing I really want to point out is that you had that shift, right? The society is having that shift, right? Um, and what we've been taught will create success wasn't what worked for you, right? Because I think for the audience, like we were, again, we were raised a certain way, like go with what works, get a job, do these things. And they aren't necessarily the path to success right now. And I think if we can trust that if we move the way things are shifting, that we can find ways that will support us, you know, into the future, regardless of what's happening during the shift, you know. So I just like to point that out. We've got examples going here of great success and feeling good and moving into things and paths that are meant for you, you know, and you know, it's definitely something anybody can do. The one question I always like to end with is how has voice impacted your life, and do you see anywhere where lessons or things that you did with your voice, speaking or singing, are what help you do the work you do?
Absolutely. So it was almost like just unlocking, right? Like it's just this unlocking of what I need to say and not being scared any longer of saying it, not being worried about what Sally down the street's going to think, or Tim from high school, or or even like family members and stuff. Getting to this place. So there was one thing I actually, to unlock my voice, I did have to go talk to my grandpa, which is funny. So my grandpa for me was much more like my dad. Like he always showed up. He's, always been there, and he's loved me just continually and amazing. And he's a wonderful man, but he doesn't swear. He, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I found that there was this stop. Like I didn't want to be fully me in case he could see it, right? And
Yeah.
it would hurt him or upset him. And so I was actually working with the coach, and they were like, okay, what is the deal? Why are you not like doing these things? We make this plan, you're excited, and then you don't do it. And I was like, and we dig down, and it was this. And so I
Mm-hmm.
actually went and talked to him, and I was like, hey, would you be all right if I start swearing on the internet? Like literally. It's like, sure. You know what I mean? and and then I was like, and would it be okay like if I was wildly successful too? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. And it did, it like helped unlock this fear that I had, like.
Yeah.
And so I started showing up as me, and then as I did it, there was some intense backlash. I am an intense person. I'm one of those, like, oh, man, I suck the truth out of people. I'm not even trying to do it. I honestly don't. Like, it's just my natural, like, talent. And so sometimes I'm very uncomfortable for people, especially if they're lying to themselves a lot. They don't tend to love hanging out with me or being anywhere near my stuff. And sometimes I trigger for people, and I had some pretty like intense issues around this. As I started to get more visible, people were really, even people like in my life that like I knew well,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really painful. And so then it was like, okay, this choice of, well, you can go back to being a little bit more palatable and crushing your own soul, and they really don't give a crap about you either way, or you can just keep going and see what's on the other side of using your voice, of truly showing up as who you are. And I will tell you that it wasn't easy, but as I showed up as who I actually am, it changed my relationship with my child. It changed my relationship with my husband. He loves and adores me in a way that he, in our whole 20 plus years, has never done until recently, because I unlocked that voice. I unlocked who I fully am. And because it's hard for people to really truly love and appreciate you when you're like a pretend version of yourself, right? And even if they do
Exactly.
love and appreciate you, they only love and appreciate that pretend version. So there's all these rules that you've set up for yourself that you have to live inside of. And that sucks. Same thing with your audience, same thing with your business. If you have customers that you have to be a certain way with, it starts to box you in until it feels like like you can't use your real voice, you know? If you've ever
Yeah.
met those people that you're like, that can't be your real voice. This has got to be something you're putting on. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people do it. And that was the thing for me is once I unlocked that, well, it changed my whole life from the ground up. And even meeting resistance, like being real that sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it's because people's reaction, this is my own theory, people's reaction to you is always about them. It doesn't actually have to do with you, really. I mean, you might be the
Right.
thing that kind of hit the catalyst, but whether they love you or hate you, it's much more about them than you. And so it's like at a certain point you just stop giving a fuck. And that was the thing that was the most freeing. And I'd say my voice and stop giving a fuck, those two things. After I got the permission from my grandpa, right? Because I super
Yeah.
give a fuck there, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Hand in hand, changed my entire life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's so much truth there. That's another thing I noticed when I saw you on the summit was that like this lady just drops truth bombs like throughout her entire talk, you know. And I was just like, holy shit, that's transformative, you know. Like you should totally listen to this lady. She's saying all the things that could change your life, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think yeah, sometimes it's hard because truth is hard. Sometimes truth hurts, especially if you're not living within it. That's another thing. Like if you're not already aligned with it, then it's just kind of like, whoa, lady, like what are you trying to say? Um, but yeah, but I think that's a point that we often miss. If we're not showing up as our full selves, then why are we mad that people don't really like us like or don't really understand us? But that's the tendency. It's like, well, nobody really understands me, nobody sees me, right? And then we keep thinking we have to show up a certain way for people to like us, and then we put ourselves into that box, and then we slowly die, we suffocate in our little box, right? And it's all because we think that nobody will accept our full selves, but we've never shown our full selves for somebody to accept, right?
Mhm.
So it's a huge deal when you walk into that moment where you're like, you know what, I am who I am, take it or leave it. And then it might take a while, depending on how, you know, far away that you were from that, you know. But eventually people come to you because of who you are, right? And then they like glorify this amazing person you are. You're just like, whoa, like I didn't think it was that deep, but I'm glad you like me. So and then you know you also get the benefit of being able to work with people you actually like, you know, like you actually want to be with. And then your real friends start showing up and your real community starts showing up. And you all of a sudden you're living in the world you want to live in, right?
Mhm.
Like it's one of these rolling things that happens, and that starts with just sharing your full self, your full voice with the world, what you have to offer. And it is good enough and it is valuable, you know? Yeah, for sure. So Sherry, I have your links in the description because I do think people should know you. I think people should have more happiness in their life, and I think you're a infinitely wise human being that has tapped into a lot of wisdom factors that can really deepen people's life experience, and that deepness gives you the happiness on the other side, you know. So is there anything they should look out specifically on the two links that they got from your website and your page? Like, what should they look out for? What should they click on
Yeah.
next?
So I have a happiness quiz so you can discover your own happiness persona. If you click the cover on the Facebook link, it will take you to the quiz. It's fun and it's super useful. For people, we've had really good reports that it's helped people just even taking the quiz and kind of seeing it out and understanding like where they could start shifting some things in their happiness right away. So I would love it if anybody wants to take the quiz. And otherwise, just connect with me. Absolutely. I would love that.
Awesome. So yeah, and she's really cool. She's really open. She's fun. right? So if you just wanted to talk to her, you can do that too. Yeah. So thank you so much, Cheri, for coming on my interview, Biz Passion Voice. Thanks for everybody for showing up. Do subscribe, do share. Come back for the next one. I will announce it on my page, so you know where I am. So yes, and I just hope that you continue to have massive happiness and success in your life, Cheri, and I hope to see you in future endeavors. So I look
Absolutely.
forward to that as well.
Thank you
Very,
for having me.
oh, you're a pleasure. It's an awesome interview. So thank you so much for coming on. All right, guys.